My name is Helen, and sadly, I became a widow at a very young age. I lost my beloved husband, who wasn't just my partner but my best friend and soulmate, to a sudden illness. His passing left me devastated, and in those dark days, I leaned heavily on my family for support. My parents were there for me in every way possible, but my brother, Eric, turned out to be different. Instead of offering the emotional comfort I desperately needed, Eric seemed preoccupied with my financial situation. My late husband, who was quite well off, had left me a substantial inheritance. Although I worked from home and had a decent income, the financial security meant nothing compared to the deep sorrow I felt. I would have given up everything just to have my husband back. To my dismay, Eric showed little concern for my grief. Instead, he and his wife, Samantha, focused on their own priorities, mainly involving Samantha's stepdaughter, Teresa. They hinted that since I had no children of my own, I should take on some responsibility for Teresa, including financial support. Samantha even suggested that spending time with her stepdaughter could offer me a taste of motherhood. I was stunned by their insensitivity. I tried to make it clear that I wasn't in a place to focus on anything other than healing from the loss of my husband, but Eric and Samantha didn't stop. Even my parents were embarrassed by their behavior, and our family expressed concern about their strange demands. I was furious with my brother for trying to exploit my vulnerability when all I needed was understanding and support. To make matters worse, I barely knew Teresa and had no idea why they thought I should be responsible for her. As time passed, their pressure only increased. They began frequently asking me for money and implying that since I had no children, I should be contributing more. The constant nagging eventually pushed me to my breaking point. One day, I firmly told them to stop trying to make me take on their responsibilities. Teresa was their child, not mine, and I had no obligation to care for her or provide for her. Eric and Samantha were relentless, continuing to harp on my financial situation, but I stood my ground. I made it clear that my wealth did not give them any entitlement to my money, and I refused to be guilted into doing something that wasn't my responsibility. After I confronted them, they finally backed off, likely realizing that even our family was losing patience with their selfish behavior. However, the peace didn't last long. One morning, Eric dropped a bombshell. Samantha had gone missing, allegedly due to a mental health crisis. He claimed to have contacted the police for help in finding her. I was taken aback. Samantha had seemed perfectly fine to me. Days turned into a week with no sign of her, and Eric leaned heavily on our family to help care for Teresa, who was distraught and desperately missing her mother. Our family took turns comforting and looking after Teresa during this difficult time. With summer break underway, she needed a babysitter whenever Eric left for work. After a few days of juggling things, Eric approached me with a request. He explained that Teresa, being so young, needed a mother figure, and he was reluctant to leave her with a babysitter all day. He expressed concern over how much Teresa cried for her mom and asked for my help. I understood his dilemma and acknowledged how hard it must be for Teresa without her mother. Despite my mixed feelings about Samantha, I agreed to step in. Eric expressed gratitude, mentioning Samantha's struggle and how important it was for Teresa to have some stability. I assured him I would do my best to care for her until the situation improved. Soon, Eric began dropping Teresa off at my house whenever he went to work. He reassured me that Teresa was well behaved and wouldn't cause much trouble. I was happy to help, allowing Eric to focus on his job without worrying about Teresa. Initially distressed, Teresa quickly adapted to my home. I provided meals and toys, easing some of Eric's financial burden. As the days passed, she settled in, expressing happiness about her time with me, which made Eric relieved. Our arrangement turned into a routine, with Eric picking Teresa up after work. What began as a temporary solution gradually evolved into a more permanent arrangement. One day, Eric approached me, thanking me for being such a positive influence on Teresa. Despite my issues with Samantha, I prioritized Teresa's well-being and continued to support Eric in this unexpected journey of caring for her. However, one day, Eric said, "Helen, I have some upcoming business trips, and we still haven't found Samantha. I think it might be best for Teresa to stay with you full-time for now. You have the space, and she loves being with you. It wouldn't be a bother at all. I need to focus on work and continue searching for Samantha, and having Teresa around is a distraction." I was taken aback. "Eric, you can't just spring this on me. It's absurd to expect me to take her full-time. She should be with her father during this challenging time, not shipped off to me. That's not responsible parenting." I know it's a lot to ask, but I'm doing what I think is best for Teresa right now, he insisted. Please think about her well-being. It's only temporary. Once I sort things out, I'll take her back, and you won't have to worry about her anymore. Despite my annoyance, Eric continued to plead, even involving our parents and extended family, who pressured me to take Teresa in. Feeling overwhelmed, I reluctantly agreed. Eric was pleased, and slowly, Teresa transitioned into my home permanently. I prepared one of the spare rooms for her, adding furniture and providing her with toys and clothes. She was happy and seemed to fit right in. As I developed a close bond with Teresa, she began to see me as a parental figure. It was during one of our chats that she revealed a troubling family secret. You are so nice, Aunt Helen. I love you a lot. Dad says that you love me too. I do love you a lot, Teresa. You're like my own child, I assured her. During our conversation, she shared how much she enjoyed being at my house, mentioning that her mother liked visiting and even suggested a future where we could all live together. Confused by this revelation, I questioned Teresa about when her mother had discussed this plan with her. She tells me almost every day. Helen, she said not to tell you, but I feel bad keeping secrets. Mom doesn't want you to know that she's here. As the shocking information sank in, I realized that Samantha had been visiting my house, thanks to the set of keys Eric had given her for Teresa's visits. The calculated deception from both Eric and Samantha left me in disbelief. Why is your mother pretending to be missing? I asked, needing clarity. Teresa explained that Samantha had orchestrated this ruse to create the illusion of her absence. Allegedly, she wanted me to take Teresa in as my own, believing that my financial stability and lack of children made me the perfect guardian. The magnitude of their manipulation was overwhelming, and I felt a deep sense of betrayal from my brother and his wife. To what extent is Eric aware of this? I probed. Is he helping your mom too? I know Eric wants you to take care of me. I like being with you, and I was just curious, she said innocently. They told you to keep this from me, didn't they? But you love me, so you shared it all, I replied, touched by her honesty. Thank you for trusting me. I felt a mix of anger and hurt. I wanted to confront Eric, to tell him how manipulated I felt. They had exploited my kindness to gain access to my resources and toyed with my emotions. I couldn't believe how low they had sunk. It made me sick. They lied to everyone to make Teresa their ticket to my wealth. But first, I needed to catch them in the act. I informed my housekeeper about what was happening and asked her to keep an eye on things. She was embarrassed that someone had been sneaking in unnoticed, but I reassured her it wasn't her fault since Eric had given Samantha a key. Together with Teresa, we devised a plan to put an end to their charade. The next day, I decided to go out shopping. In good spirits, I drove around the neighborhood a few times before returning home. My housekeeper gave me the signal, and I made my way to Teresa's room. She was happily playing with her toys. I raised my eyebrows at her, and she nodded, pointing toward the closet. I opened it, and to my shock, found Samantha hiding inside. Her face went pale when she saw me. What are you doing in my house? Hiding in my closet? I demanded. I was just visiting my daughter, she stammered. Who gave you permission to come here? I don't recall ever giving you my house keys. Weren't you supposed to be missing? I pressed. I got them from Eric. I missed Teresa, so I came back today. I just wanted to see her, she confessed, looking flustered. Why has Teresa been telling me you visit her whenever I leave? Do you have an explanation for that? She's just a child. She doesn't understand what she's saying. Don't take her seriously, Samantha replied. Exactly, that's why she revealed the truth to me. You've involved her in your scheme to exploit my wealth. You should be ashamed of yourself, Samantha. You know I could have you arrested for trespassing, right? Samantha looked genuinely scared, realizing the gravity of her situation. I instructed my housekeeper to take Teresa to my room so Samantha couldn't manipulate her anymore. Now Samantha was stuck with me. Please, Helen, don't involve the police. I just wanted to see Teresa. I begged Eric for the keys, she pleaded. Is that so? Then why is Eric claiming he hasn't heard from you? Stop twisting the story. I know you both planned this to manipulate me. Teresa has told me everything. Helen, you have to understand. I had her best interests at heart. I'm just a desperate mother wanting a good life for her daughter, she cried. I confronted Samantha. Is that why you've been telling Teresa that you all live in my house? Your daughter is a good kid, Samantha. She knows what you did was wrong, and she told me everything. You thought you could manipulate me by using her? Well, you're mistaken. Now you'll see what happens when you cross me. Just then, I heard sirens approaching. Yes, I had called the police the moment I stepped through the door. Samantha had entered my home without permission, and I intended to make sure she faced the consequences. She tried to escape, but I held her firmly in place until the officers arrived. After taking my statement, they arrested her, clearly astonished by the entire situation. They quickly contacted Child Protective Services to initiate an investigation. With Samantha now behind bars, Eric was poised to lose custody of Teresa. Karma was catching up with him fast. After Samantha's arrest, I went straight to my parents' house and called for Eric. When he arrived, it was clear that he understood his grand plan had collapsed. He looked embarrassed, avoiding eye contact with us. "Do you have anything to say for yourself?" I asked. "Don't bother lying. I know the truth." "I'm sorry," Eric said. "I acted in Teresa's best interest. We thought you had the means to provide for her. We believed having her around would be good for you too." "Eric, you orchestrated this for your own benefit. Teresa would have been happiest with her parents. Instead, you dumped her on me, caring only about who your heir would be, using that innocent child to manipulate me," I replied. "Helen, please believe me, I only wanted," he began. I cut him off. "I don't care what you wanted. You deceived me and played with my emotions. I supported you, and this is how you repay me. From now on, you're on your own. Teresa will go to her father, and don't think about asking me for help again." Eric was taken aback, attempting to apologize and enlist our parents' support, but they firmly rebuked him. They expressed their betrayal, vowing to expose both him and Samantha for their deceitful actions. After an hour of heated conversation, they unceremoniously kicked Eric out. He later showed up at my door, pleading for forgiveness. His legal troubles had escalated. With CPS now involved, Samantha was likely to lose custody of Teresa to her ex-husband. Without any savings to secure her release, Eric found himself in dire straits. Her ex was already on his way to pick up Teresa, who remained in my care for the moment. I told Eric he and Samantha deserved the consequences of their actions and shut the door in his face. It seemed no one was willing to support them any longer, leaving them isolated and facing a looming lawsuit. Meanwhile, Teresa was reunited with her father, who expressed his gratitude for the care I had provided. While I occasionally kept in touch with the young girl, my life gradually returned to its previous state.